Hey everyone, welcome to Real Mode Geek. My name is Anthony, and today I'd like to show you a 486 that I was given from a friend of mine. It's an interesting box. It was originally installed in an old paging system in the early to mid 90s. I'm not exactly sure what it did for the paging system, but it controlled something. It was no longer in use, so it ended up with me, and I wanted to show you guys the box and give you a little tutorial. Alright, so here's the machine. It's in this small form factor black case. It was originally racked with the rest of the equipment in the paging system. I've taken it apart a bit because it originally came with this, I can't remember the term for it, but this sort of header, I guess you would say. That was designed specifically for their configuration. Obviously doesn't allow you to install your own expansion cards, so I removed it. Since it's not a conventional case, you can't exactly use the brackets that come with the cards, so if it's a half-height card, I remove the bracket. We'll go over the hardware in this box, starting with the motherboard. It's got a BioStar 8443 UUD motherboard, which features 3 PCI slots and 3 ISA slots. It's got a Seagate 1.2 gigabyte hard drive, which interestingly enough was only formatted with one partition that's 504 gigabytes. The BIOS will support the full drive, so I'm not sure why it was set up that way. My guess is some weird imaging that the company who supported the paging system was doing. It's got a 3.5-inch floppy drive, which the original drive that it came with was bad, so I replaced that. It's got a power supply, obviously, 150 watts. It's the original power supply as far as I can tell, and it still functions. Given that this box was probably put together in the mid-90s, the power supply may fail at some point in time, so I'll have to figure out what I'm going to do with the replacement. And it's got, for a processor, it's got an Intel Overdrive DX4 processor. The motherboard, I should mention, still has the original Dallas real-time clock sort of integrated battery setup. That is likely to fail at some point, so I'll have to source a replacement. For expansion cards, it originally came with a few cards. I'll go over the video card first. This is a Trident TVGA 9000. It's got 256K of video memory. It'll do 640 by 480 at 256 colors, I believe. It'll do 800 by 600 at 16 colors. And according to the documentation, it's supposed to be able to do 1024 by 768 at 16 colors, I believe, but I cannot get it to do that. So I'm going to replace it at some point because I want a little higher resolution and a little more color. I've got installed a generic cheap network card. It's a Davicom network card. I don't know where I got it, but I managed to get it to work with Windows for Workgroups 3.11. which is all I needed it to do. And it also came with 2 other cards that I've removed, and I have them over here. I'm going to reach across the camera. You can kind of see them in the corner. When I held up this header, it also has this card, let me go down, attached to it, like an I/O card. It's got a parallel port and then a couple of COM ports, and then they also used some COM ports that were on the board itself. I don't know what was connected to these. I don't know why they needed so many COM ports. Probably for various devices in the paging system rack. But I don't need this, so I went ahead and removed it. It also, reaching across the camera again, came with this card that I cannot quite figure out what it was for exactly. I think it was like an interrupt system reset sort of device. Because it has this reset in and reset out connectors. Reset out is this one, and then reset in is here. In the header, it has a reset switch. So the case does not have a reset switch built in. But maybe this allowed them to somehow maybe reset the system via one of the paging components, or maybe even potentially reset the system remotely, because the system ironically had PC Anywhere installed. So they must have done some remote management somehow, whether they had a modem connected to one of the COM ports and would dial in when they needed to do remote maintenance. I'm not sure. But at any rate, that's pretty much the hardware of this machine. It's got the motherboard has a 6-pin DIN connector for your keyboard, and I've got this adapter, if you can see up here, to adapt to PS2, because I no longer have a 6-pin DIN keyboard. It's got a PS2 port for a mouse, which I've got my handy dandy Logitech Mouse Man connected to it. This mouse has got to be maybe as old as me, but it works pretty well in Windows. And let's see, what else about this box? I think that's pretty much it. If you have any sort of questions about it... Oh, I know what I forgot. I need to go over the memory. So it takes 72-pin SIM memory sticks, and it originally came with 4 megabytes of memory. You can kind of see it over here. There's four slots. If I can uncover this. And one of the things I did, in addition to adding the network card, is I also upgraded the memory. I took out the 4 megabyte memory stick and put in a 32 megabyte memory stick. The maximum amount of memory this board will support is 128 megabytes of RAM. So I bought the 132 thinking, if in the future I want to upgrade, I can just go 32 megs at a time until I hit 128 if I ever felt like I needed it, and then be at the max and not have wasted any money buying smaller sticks going, oh, I really want more memory. Because you have to put in matching matching RAM, basically. So if you had a 4 megabyte stick, you can only put 4 megabyte sticks in the system. So that's why I opted to get the 32 megabyte stick, and it was not that expensive. It was 11 bucks. And I can post where I got the memory from in the comments of the video. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to boot it up and give you a quick software tutorial. Alright, so I'm going to power on the machine, I'm going to boot it up. We'll do a quick demo of a couple of applications. And yeah, so I'm going to turn it on. And you get the nice sound of the hard disk spinning up and doing its initial self-test. And we wait to go through post. You see it's got the DX4 100 megahertz, testing the 32 megs of memory. It's now detecting the hard drive. And then we'll start booting MS-DOS. This machine's got MS-DOS 622 installed. That came with it. I didn't have to do anything for that. I've got Windows for Workgroups 3.11 installed. That was an interesting feat because I've only got a few floppy disks, and Windows for Workgroups 3.11 is 8 floppy disks. I have a story behind that. That may be another YouTube video on itself. It took a while to get that installed, but I got it done. You'll see we're booted. DOS network driver loaded. You'll notice the media type is 10 megs, full duplex. I had to hard code it at 10 megabits. It is a 10100 network card, but I found that at 100 megabits, when I copy files over, it would overwhelm the system and the network stack would eventually crash. So hard coding it to 10 megabits fixed that problem. I've got a bunch of stuff installed on the machine, and do a DIR, and you'll hear my son knocking on my door. Let's see. So we'll do a directory listing. I've got a bunch of stuff on here. There's some files left over here from when it was used in the paging system. I have no idea what it did. When you run the paging software, it basically complains that it can't communicate with it, which makes sense because it's not installed. Let's see, if I go into the games directory I created, let's see what I've got here. I've got a few games. I'm sure some of you remember Tank Wars. I think bomb's how you launch it. So This game my son likes to play with me. I'll set up the shot and then he'll fire it off. So we've got Tank Wars installed. I'm not going to go through the game, but if we just go to start, you'll see it's a little fast on the 486, but it's not too bad. Go computer, Mr. Stupid, and there you go. You can adjust the angle, adjust the power, fire it off, and there you go. So that's Tank Wars. We'll go ahead and quit this. Alright, so I got out of Tank Wars. I ended up just doing Control-Alt-Delete because I couldn't figure out how to exit Tank Wars. I usually play through until I'm done. I've never had to exit mid-game, so I'm sure there's a way to do it. I just don't know how to do it. So now we're back. And so I've got Tank Wars, I've got Lemmings. Show you Lemmings. This one I know how to exit, so we'll be okay. So we'll go for high performance PCs. And there you go, we've got Lemmings. We'll do one player. This to continue. And there you go. Go ahead and exit. Used to play this game a lot as a kid. It was a lot of fun. Get out of here. Alright. And then another game I have is Flashback. Quest for Identity. Now this game, I guess early software, I guess counterfeiting sort of anti-counterfeiting techniques were to require you to enter a phrase from the manual that came with the software. This game requires you to do that. Here's the intro video. I actually do not know how to skip this video, so we'll have to watch the video or I'll speed it up or whatever. But it's a fun game. It's kind of a platformy game. Some of you might be familiar with it. I didn't play it a whole heck of a lot. I just happen to have the floppies, so I installed it. The manual is available online, so I can look at the manual and get the column and the line and the words they're referring to. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. I don't have it in front of me right now, so I can't enter what they call the security code. I've looked online, and some forums say if you enter a bunch of pluses, I forget what other tricks there were to get past that, you're supposed to be able to defeat it, but the copy I have, I've tried, and I can't seem to defeat it. So you'll see when I go to start, it's going to ask for a quote-unquote security code. You'll see it's looking for page 6, line 5, column 2, word 6. And so I type that word, hit enter, and then I can play the game. I thought when I installed the game that you only had to do this once and it saved to disk that you've confirmed you have a quote-unquote legit copy, but no, it asks you every time you go into the game. So, I'll get out of here. Can I not exit this either? Oh jeez. Well, we'll just do this until I've got an incorrect code. There we go. Go ahead and quit. And so the last thing I'll show you is we'll do a really quick sort of spin around Windows. Not exit. See, I want to get back to. There we go, the prompt. Let's go into Windows. It takes a minute to load. Since I've got the networking enabled, it's going to hang for a minute at the background. I'm not exactly sure what it's doing, if it's waiting for the network stack to initialize or what. But if we wait a minute here, it'll eventually pop up with a login screen, which resembles what you are used to seeing in Windows 95, 98, ME. It's interesting how over time these dialog boxes don't really change all that much. So I'm going to type my super secret password, and here we are in the program manager. I don't have too much in here. I've got Microsoft Office installed. I think it's Office 4.3. It was the last 16-bit version of Office. I wanted to give it a spin, and it is 100% functional. If you wanted to set up a vintage computer and use it for office productivity, I don't see any reason why you could not do that. It's totally functional. Spell check. I guess the only problem will be getting your files on and off the computer. Might not be as convenient. But anyway, go ahead and quit. Nope, don't want to save. So yeah, I've got Office, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, very, very nerdy programs installed right now. Other than that, I've got a program I used to play around with as a kid called the Lion King Print Studio. And this is one of the reasons why I want to upgrade the video card, because it looks terrible in 16 colors. Absolutely terrible. Oh, if I had a card that did 256 colors or, you know, high color, it would look much, much, much better. But this is pretty terrible. Anyway, we'll go ahead and exit that. I'll give you a quick, we'll close this, go into main, Windows setup, you'll see, get the Trident 800 by 616 color. I've tried forcing the card to do 256 colors, but it just won't do it, and I believe it's because I don't have enough video RAM. There are two empty slots, or not slots, sockets on the video card, so I could add more video memory, but I just want an all-around better video card. I have one on the way. It's coming from Russia. It's going to take a month or so. It's the Diamond Stealth 3 S530 or something. I can't remember. I don't have it in front of me. That I have on order. It's a PCI card. It's got, I believe, 8 megabytes of video memory, which is crazy for this era of computing. 8 megabytes of video memory is, that's like, holy crap, you know, a lot of video memory. So there's Windows setup. We'll go into change network settings to show you some of the networking aspect of it. Interesting thing is that you have to install Microsoft TCP/IP in order to do IP-based networking. It does not come with that out of the box. It was a fairly straightforward install. Once you've got that set up, it's pretty easy to work with. This is what you go through to set up networking. When you've got Microsoft TCP/IP installed, you can share files and whatnot, and it actually works fairly well. I have my desktop is a Fedora box, and I can connect to the Windows file shares on my Fedora box. The only downside is you can't set up passwords, so it's not secure in any means, not something you want to put on the internet. So anyway, somewhere around here you can get to setting the IP address. I think, is that in here? No, I need to go back to main and then Windows setup. It's not a bad machine. It's fairly responsive, and I think with a better video card, the interface will be a little more responsive. It's quite usable. Go to drivers, choose TCP/IP, and then setup. This window will look really familiar. It's amazing. Even in Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 10, this dialog box has not really changed all that much. One difference is you can set DNS servers on this box. You have to go to a separate page for DNS, which, interestingly enough, I did not configure. I may do that at some point. So oh no, because it comes from DHCP. It just doesn't tell you that. It doesn't tell you it's going to get DNS servers from DHCP, but it does work. There's no way to do any network testing out of the box with what Microsoft gives you in terms of their tools. They give you an FTP client, Telnet client, and then they have some DOS-based commands you can run that are familiar. So if we go in here and go to a DOS prompt, you can do a ping. It'll ping google.com, and it'll ping it. I don't know if we have NSLookup. Let's see. Nope, we do not. I haven't gotten myself too familiar with the different networking tools that come out of the box with the Microsoft TCP/IP package, but it works, and I think that's really cool. So it's one way I can get software onto this box without having to create a million floppies. And after I created the floppies for Windows 3.11, I've only got 1.5 good floppies left. So if I want to copy something over that's more than 1.4-ish megabytes, I've got to do it chunks at a time. But with the network card in the machine and the share created, I can copy files over from my Fedora box. It's not super fast. It's a couple hundred kilobytes a second, depending on, you know, the weather. But it's quicker than creating a floppy, copying it over, then formatting the floppy, doing it over again. And then you run into instances where, you know, for some reason the floppy didn't create properly and I can't read a file. But anyway, it's being able to copy files over the network is much better. You see here I have the share, and yeah, I did this when I wanted to play with MS Office, because as you can see, Microsoft Office 4.3 is 24 disks, and having one good disk, no, not gonna happen. So I copied all this over via the network. I had this folder shared, and it worked out really well. It took a while, but it worked out pretty well. Other than that, that's pretty much it. If there's anything in particular you want to see about this machine, have any questions, feel free to comment below, and I'll give you all the information I know, and if I don't know it, I'll research it. But that's pretty much it. That's a pretty basic tour of my 486 box. So thanks for watching, and hopefully you subscribe, and we'll see you next time.